The leakage of funds also robs the taxpayers of the rich world, whose taxes pay for overseas aid.
The best figures that are out there at the moment show that for every dollar in aid that goes into developing countries, $10 come out in illicit financial flows and end up back in banks, in tax havens and in major financial centres. That consists of a mixture of corruption, so that's state assets being looted, as well as tax evasion by wealthy individuals and abusive tax avoidance by multinational companies seeking to stash their profits in offshore havens.
If you really wanted to hide your money away, where would you go? Well, for centuries you'd have come here to Switzerland and opened a Swiss bank account. But strangely enough, the country favoured by spy movie makers and thriller writers for its banking secrecy now claims to be leading the fight back against corrupt money and the hidden hoards.
There is this James Bond image of Swiss banks, the idea that anyone who has a bank account in Switzerland must be hiding something. This really is a stereotypical image of Swiss banking. In fact, Swiss banks have some of the strictest anti-money laundering, know your customer rules to be found in the world. And I would say Swiss banks today are the last place where a criminal should try to launder money.
Under instructions from the government, Swiss banks have frozen nearly $1 billion belonging to Gaddafi, Mubarak and Ben Ali. But not everyone is impressed with the Swiss bank's efforts to ditch their reputation for secrecy and identify stolen money.
What surprises us is why the Swiss banks haven't reported earlier that they have assets from these people and their families here in Switzerland. Why they have reported only now that the Swiss government has ordered the freezing of all the money in connection with these people. So this is a big question for us.
Freezing the assets is the easy bit, and the Swiss have been pretty quick to do so. The more difficult task is how to return the money to its rightful owners. Indeed, who are the rightful owners? And how can you make sure that any money that is returned doesn't just disappear again? A new Swiss law seeks to do just that. It allows stolen money to be frozen, confiscated and returned by Switzerland to legitimate owners in so-called failed states. Valentin Zellweger has been instrumental in introducing the new law.
It is about countries that are weakened to the extent that they are no longer able to prosecute those who are corrupt, or no longer able to help us in sending the money back.
But Switzerland is still wrestling with the problem of accounting for any returned money.
It's not easy, but there is no one-size-fits-all solution. We are under intense scrutiny by the public, and therefore we have to find ways to assure that the money really benefits those it's intended for.
In Switzerland, they have a new law. In France, Sherpa, a tiny organisation of human rights lawyers, has embarked on a David and Goliath court battle to return the assets of 3 African dictators and their families. It accuses them of using public funds to finance their luxury spending. One of them is the Obiang family, but Sherpa knows it's going to be a long slog.
So far, no legal action has ever been taken in France in assets recovery. That's why not a single penny has ever been returned to victim countries. It's all about enforcement. Do the states really want to pursue, corruption, large-scale corruption cases? Until recently, I don't think so. But I do believe that things are going to change.
But no matter how much we criticise banks and regulators, there's a political dimension which may be most important of all. Not unnaturally, banks argue that if it's okay for prime ministers and presidents to be friends of Colonel Gaddafi, Ben Ali and other dictators, why is it so objectionable to provide bank accounts for those same people?
It's not that long ago that we saw these dictators on television being wined and dined and feted by the international community. One thinks of Nicolas Sarkozy hugging Ben Ali on television during a state visit, and then the next day they're relabeled as a plundering dictator.
So, stopping the dirty money, the kleptocrats with their yachts and jets and the corruption behind it all just won't happen unless the banks and regulators get serious. And behind that, the biggest question of all, are the governments and international organisations of the West prepared to say no and refuse to do business with the corrupt regimes of the world? If not, then it will fall to the growing network of anti-corruption campaigners to chip away at the system. And if all else fails, there's still always the option adopted by the London squatters. Just take the dirty money back.
And that's it for this edition of People in Power. If you'd like to comment on this film or anything else, we'd love to hear from you on aljazeera.net/English. Until next time, goodbye.